I was just a humble cleaner, until the wealthy man's shocking discovery changed everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started like any other day, the sun creeping in through the dusty windows of the grand mansion. I can still feel the chill of the polished marble under my trembling hands as I scrubbed the kitchen floor, alone in that cavernous space. The air was thick with silence, broken only by the sounds of my mop swishing back and forth. But that day, there was something different. As I bent down to clean beneath the counter, a glint caught my eye. A metallic shimmer hidden beneath an ornate golden cabinet. Curiosity pulsed through me. What could be tucked away in such a lavish place? I pulled the cabinet open, heart racing. Inside lay a velvet-lined drawer. My breath caught in my throat. I could barely process the weight of the secrets that must be buried in this house. Carefully, I opened the drawer, revealing a small, intricately designed box. It was unlike anything I had ever seen. Rich colors danced across its surface, telling stories of wealth and hidden mysteries. I cradled it in my hands, its coolness sending shivers up my spine. Just as I was about to lift the lid, a sudden noise jolted me back. The front door slammed, echoing through the empty halls. Panic surged through me. I quickly shoved the box back into the drawer and closed it, my heart racing. Footsteps approached. My throat felt tight, constricting with fear. The wealthy owner of the mansion, Mr. Holloway, was home early. He was a man of sharp features and an even sharper temper. I had seen the way he looked at his possessions, as if each piece was an extension of his status, and I was nothing more than a mere shadow in his world. I held my breath, hoping to blend into the walls as he walked in, his tailored suit brushing against the doorway with an air of authority. "What are you still doing here?" he snapped, squinting at me like I was a stain he couldn't quite wipe clean. I mumbled a response, my hands shaking. He dismissed me with a wave, but I could feel his eyes lingering, piercing, searching for something hidden behind my nervous facade. As he turned away, I felt the weight of the box pulling at my very soul. It was an invitation and a curse. Could it be that Mr. Holloway had secrets of his own? The way he thumped around the house, the whispers I overheard from the staff about strange occurrences late at night, it made my heart race. I wondered if I should confront him, draw him into whatever mystery was unfolding. But fear rooted me to that spot. One wrong move, and everything I built to survive in this world of wealth might shatter before my eyes. As I swept the floor, those golden tiles glimmering like a promise of something bigger, I felt the box calling to me. I wanted to open it, but what if it held a truth too dark to bear? I glanced back at Mr. Holloway, who was now buried in his office, completely oblivious. Could I risk everything for a secret that might change it all? Suddenly, the weight of the box felt heavier than ever, as if the fate of my future lay within it. That unease settled in my stomach. It was a game of chance now, an unsteady balance on a tightrope of uncertainty. I knew I was standing on the edge of something huge. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The next day arrived cloaked in a heavy fog, wrapping the mansion in a veil of uncertainty. I woke up with a sense of dread, my dreams haunted by flashes of the ornate box nestled in the drawer. Its colors danced before my mind's eye, the secrets inside like shadows creeping closer, taunting me with their unspeakable truths. I dressed quickly, the fabric of my uniform feeling like an anchor dragging me further from the thrill of curiosity that had ignited in my gut. Upon entering the kitchen, the familiar scent of polished wood and burnt coffee filled the air, but it wasn't comforting today. I found myself hesitating near the cabinet where I first uncovered the box. Blood thudded in my ears as I stared at it, the golden cabinet looming like a sentinel guarding its secrets. I didn't want to, but I felt drawn to it again. Perhaps there was a sliver of hope that could change everything. As I began my daily tasks, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. My heart raced every time Mr. Holloway's footsteps echoed in the hall. He was a constant presence, slipping between rooms as if the architecture itself yielded to his will. One moment, he'd glower over the contract papers at his desk. The next, he'd be brushing past me with barely a glance, just another day in the life of a cleaner in a world of wealth. But this day was different. I sensed his anger bubbling just beneath the surface. Was he hiding something too? The kitchen window offered a view of the sprawling grounds outside, a place that once made me feel like I belonged, now only deepened my sense of isolation. As I peered out, I noticed a figure appearing by the edge of the gardenia, a woman in a flowing dress, her hair cascading like flowers falling from the earth. She was unusual. Unlike the rest of the staff, she seemed to move with a grace, her presence illuminating even the darkest corners of my confusion. That I found myself inexplicably drawn to her, and in a moment of courage, picked up the mop, moving toward the back door. The cool air brushed against my skin as I stepped outside, each step a challenge against the weight of my worries. The woman turned, and our eyes met. There was something captivating in her gaze, as if she too understood the urgency of unsaid words, of burdens carried in silence. "My name is Clara," she said softly, a small smile blossoming like a flower in spring after a long winter. The warmth of her voice chased away my chill. "I can sense there's something weighing on you. You're not like the others who work here." I hesitated at first, caught between the fear of revealing my troubles and the yearning for human connection. I found something in the house. A box. It feels significant, but I don't know what to do." Her expression shifted, her smile faded, and a flicker of understanding crossed her features. "What you choose to do with it could change everything," she said, her voice getting softer, as if the very air resonated with the weight of her words. "Sometimes, what we discover about others leads us to understand more about ourselves." Pensive, I thought of Mr. Holloway. Did he know about the secrets I had found? Did he hide something that had ruined his connection with the world, much like mine felt fractured and thin? And as I stood with Clara in the garden, I realized I was more entangled in this web of hidden truths than I had anticipated. Perhaps the box I had found was not just an artifact of material wealth, but the key to unraveling mysteries that had clouded this mansion's history. But just as hope began to swell in my heart, a loud crash echoed from the direction of the house, snapping us both back to reality. My stomach dropped as I recognized Mr. Holloway's booming voice laced with fury. "Where is it? It has to be here." Clara's eyes widened, and fear crept into her expression. "You need to hide. He can't find you here," she whispered urgently, glancing toward the house where shadows loomed large. As I turned to move back, anxiety clawed at me. What was Mr. Holloway searching for? Had my innocent curiosity put me directly in the path of his rage? I didn't want to retreat into the shadows of servitude. I wanted to confront the truth. Drawing a shaky breath, I faced Clara once more. What if it meant to find out what's really happening here? Before she could answer, the door to the kitchen flew ajar, and footsteps thundered outside, an ominous reminder of the churning uncertainty I was caught in. It felt as if the very walls of the mansion were trembling, tightening as though they could sense the tempest brewing within. I needed to decide, would I slip back into the dark recesses of my role as just a cleaner, or would I reach for the box that seemed to illuminate a path fraught with danger and discovery? And then, like a bolt of lightning striking the ground, a chilling thought crossed my mind. What if the box I had found was not just a treasure, but something far more dangerous, tied to Mr. Holloway in ways I couldn't yet comprehend? My heart raced as I turned to sprint back toward the kitchen, the revelation hanging heavy in the air like a storm waiting to break, knowing that the next moments would unfold a truth so shocking it could hardly be imagined. Clarity flickered in the chaos of my racing thoughts as I dashed toward the kitchen, my breath quickening with every step. The thundering footsteps outside melded with the echoes of uncertainty, and my heart drummed erratically beneath the weight of my choices. I skidded around the corner, praying the door to the kitchen remained ajar, hoping that my sanctuary still held the shadows of familiarity, but as I hurried inside, I was met with a sight that froze me in place. Mr. Holloway stood at the counter, his eyes wild and luminous, flaring with a dark intensity that sent shivers down my spine. The scattered remnants of a broken teacup lay at his feet, shards glinting like lost memories creeping out in the unforgiving light. He was searching not for a box, but for something far more sinister. "Where is she?" he shouted, voice echoing like thunder through the empty rooms. My pulse thundered in my ears. Clara's urgent voice lingered in my mind, the warning too potent to ignore. I could feel the walls tightening around me, as though the house itself, once a keeper of secrets, was closing in, turned hostile by dread. Damar. Holloway? I ventured, my voice quaking. It felt like stepping onto thin ice, the slightest misstep likely to shatter the fragile surface between him and the fire raging within. That he turned abruptly, and I caught a glimpse of something unrecognizable, a man teetering dangerously close to the edge of reason. What do you want? I pressed, my hands trembling. You should not have been here, he growled, narrowing his eyes. This is no place for the likes of you, a girl wrapped in delusions of a different life. His contempt cut deep, but the anger it incited within me felt equally potent. What are you hiding? I demanded, yearning for the thrill of confrontation, emboldened by the strength of the unknown. The box nestled in my thoughts, a pitiful reminder that even within captive beauty, darkness thrived. His gaze deepened as he stepped forward, oblivious to my fear. You think you're a player in this game? You have no idea what you have stumbled upon. Then, as if wrestling a demon, he forced a laugh, harsh and jagged. You think Clara will save you? She's as lost as you, Clara. I repeated, my heart sinking at the mention of her name. I recalled the grace in her movements, the beauty in her compassion, and for a moment, the solace she provided flickered like a candle against the storm. That I won't let you take her, he spat, his words reeking of a controlling darkness. The sheer animosity fueled a strange sense of resolve within me. Whatever lay at the heart of his rage connected them both far deeper than I initially thought. Are you scared of what the truth could unravel? I asked, my pulse quickening, emboldened by the mounting tension. Are you frightened of being exposed? For a fleeting second, something tender flashed behind his icy demeanor, an emotion barely contained, wrestling against the viciousness of his facade. But with a sudden tilt of his head, it vanished like smoke, consumed once again by the greed and shadows circling him. Do not test me, girl. His voice was calm, yet undercurrent with a darkness that suggested he teetered on the precipice of violence. What you say could lead to your end, but as he advanced, desperation surged within me. I can help you. This doesn't have to end in ruin. My words hung in the air, laden with an urgency that felt oddly powerful. Deep down, I recognized the perilous stakes we each faced, enemies tethered by secrecy and conflict. Help? He shot back, his eyes narrowing into slits. You think you know anything about me? About what I've done? You're nothing but a girl playing in the ashes of a man's world. That I in that charged moment, I caught sight of Clara, peeking through the door, hesitantly entering with apprehension painted across her face. Her presence felt like a lifeline amidst torrents of despair. She stood armed with a quiet bravery. Our gazes locked briefly, and there was an understanding, a commitment to unearth what lay buried beneath the turmoil. That I may just be a cleaner, I called, raising my voice to cut through the tension suffocating the room. But I know darkness when I see it, and I will not be afraid to seek the light, no matter the cost. The intensity in Mr. Holloway's stare faltered momentarily, and in that instant, I saw a flicker of vulnerability, the battle within him raging fiercely. The confrontation shifted like the tides, an unspoken question hovering in the air. Was he the true monster waiting to be discovered, or a man overwhelmed by his past? But just as that question poised to unravel his defenses, a loud thud resonated from the howling echo of hurried movement sweeping through the mansion, something shifting in the fabric of our reality. My heart plummeted. The moment of clarity hanging between us frayed as the footsteps approached, growing louder, threatening to quash our fragile resolve. Clara, we need to go. I shouted, urgency wrapping around our hearts like the tightening grip of fate. But before we could even act on our concocted escape, the door swung open fully, revealing a figure I hadn't anticipated. It was not a stranger, nor merely a guard of the household, but someone from my own world, an embodiment of my past that shattered the very foundation I stood upon. It was my brother, Nathan, standing there with eyes wide and unnerving comprehension, the very image of shock layered beneath his solemn expression. What have you done? He breathed, and the weight of the world once disconnected came crashing upon us all like a deafening wave, crashing down where the truths were finally poised to ripple outward, irreversible and unforgiving. The air thickened with tension as Nathan's presence cloaked the room in a sense of dread. Reflexively, I clutched the edge of the counter, my knuckles whitening, grappling with the enormity of this moment. My brother, the ever-faithful guardian, now stood at the threshold unwilling to let the chaos consume me, yet uncertain of whom to trust. "Why are you here?" I demanded, my voice barely above a whisper, the clinic of raw emotion threatening to spill. "You shouldn't." "Bay could ask you the same," Nathan interrupted, his tone laced with urgency. "Do you realize the consequences of being in this place? With him?" He gestured towards Mr. Holloway, whose eyes now flamed like a dormant ember suddenly reignited, smoldering with the possibility of violence. "Please, Nathan. You don't understand," I implored, attempting to bridge the gaps of understanding that yawned between us. "This is about Clara. We have to help her." "Help?" Nathan snorted derisively, yet beneath it lay a current of fear. "You don't even know what you're getting involved in. This isn't just some errant dispute, it's dangerous, and you're wandering into the lion's den completely unarmed." The confrontation felt like a noose tightening around my thoughts while the uncertainty of how to move forward overwhelmed me. "I'm not afraid," I insisted, though my voice wavered under the weight of doubt. I felt hollow and raw, exposed in ways I could scarcely articulate. Mr. Holloway seized the moment, his voice dripping with disdain. "You think you're here on a quest of salvation? You flutter like a moth to the flame, unaware of the darker truths lurking beneath this facade." He stepped closer, casting a looming shadow over the moment as Clara stood frozen by the doorway, a tremor of uncertainty flickering within her beautiful eyes. My gaze darted back to Nathan. "You have to believe me. Whatever he's hiding affects Clara. We can't just abandon her." "Not now, that's not the point, Lila." Nathan spat, stepping into the room with a sudden forcefulness that caught me off guard. "Your life is in jeopardy. I came to bring you home to protect you, and what about Clara?" I launched back, spiraling into the clash of emotions now raging through me. "Are we to just leave her behind because you think it's better for me? What about your promise to always enough?" He shouted, his voice ricocheting off the walls, shattering the tender thread that connected our hopes. The ensuing silence felt like an abyss, swallowing our words on a tide of regret, desire, and fear. Mr. Holloway interjected, his amusement betraying a sense of foreboding. "What a fine little family reunion this is, dancing around each other's truths," he taunted, his voice low and sardonic. "But perhaps it's time for some revelations to surface. What do you want from us?" I pressed, feeling the churning disquiet trap me in its web. "If Clara is your weapon, I swear she is none of your concern, little girl." "But the truth?" He leaned forward, his breaths weighted with a darkness that enveloped the space. "The truth is far more damaging than any of you could ever imagine," and just like that, the atmosphere crackled with tension, exposing a raw nerve, a fragile truth pulsing right beneath the surface. Clara, still standing a few feet behind Nathan, took a tentative step forward, her expression wavering between hope and fear. "Mr. Holloway," she began, her voice soft yet resonant, "you don't have to do this alone. I ask that your grand offer?" He laughed, but it was devoid of humor, harsh and mirthless. There was something fleeting in his eyes, an abyss opening behind the hard exterior, and I couldn't tell if it was anguish or rage threatening to drown us all. "Clara, we need to get out." I urged her again, but she was caught in the current, a peripheral witness to a secret tension between our two worlds. As the commotion hung heavy in the air, I felt a connection sputtering between Nathan and me, as if he sensed the trap closing in on us, a moment where the ties of family clashed with the urgency of my newfound purpose. At that moment, a sudden sound echoed through the hallway again, one that reverberated differently than before, sending a bolt of fear racing through my veins. The sound of rushing footsteps, but now they were not merely approaching, they were advancing with purpose. The murmurs of discontent flared, and I felt the shift that would decide everything. "Nathan, what's happening?" I implored, desperation edging into my tone as I met his gaze. But before he could answer, the door swung open again to reveal two more figures shrouded in shadows, men whose affiliation with Mr. Holloway was immediately apparent. Their expressions revealed a sense of authority that enveloped the room like a tightening noose. "Mr. Holloway, we've come for her," one of them announced, an icy determination threading through his voice. And in that moment a piercing realization washed over me like a wave, dragging me under, suffocating me with the weight of truth. The confrontation had escalated beyond mere words, plunging us into a maelstrom of ulterior motives, unyielding loyalty, and dangerous secrets that sought to uproot everything I thought I knew, Lila. Nathan shouted, a flare of panic etched across his face as the realization of what lay ahead dawned on all of us. In that instant, I understood life wouldn't grant me the choices I yearned for or the hopes I clung to. Alone in the eye of this storm, I needed to make a choice: either succumb to the shadows or ignite the fire within to fight for Clara amidst the growing darkness. As the heavy silence suffocated the room, shrouded in uncertainty, my heart raced in wild anticipation. The two newcomers shared a hardened gaze with Mr. Holloway, a silent agreement passed between them that unnerved me to my core. While fear gripped me, an ember of defiance flickered stubbornly within Lila. Nathan's voice cracked through the tension, a dark warning echoing in the chaos, pulling me toward the reality of our circumstances. This had spiraled beyond a simple confrontation. We were caught in a web of deceit, and the stakes had never been higher. Let her go, I demanded, my voice sharper than I felt. You have no right. I stepped forward, a small act of courage in the face of uncertainty. Mr. Holloway raised an eyebrow, amusement spreading across his chiseled face. Such bravery in the face of inevitable consequence. But let's not be hasty, dear girl. We've only just begun to scratch the surface of these complex relations. The men beside him shifted uncomfortably, and I seized on their hesitance, striving to sow seeds of discontent. Clara is not a bargaining chip for your games, I pleaded, casting a desperate glance at her. She stood, resigned yet wary, a silent observer in a storm she shouldn't be tethered to. What do you want from her? Nathan shot back, his voice laced with worry, a crack forming in his once steadfast demeanor. This isn't right. You're playing with fire. The noble brother finally awakens, Mr. Holloway sneered, but there was something unsettlingly contemplative about his demeanor, a flicker of uncertainty that hinted at deeper motivations. Tell me, Nathan, how far would you go to protect her? Would you tear down the walls of deception built by your own family? Don't, Nathan said, his voice low, almost pleading. Don't you dare make this personal. But the air felt electric with tension as the realization settled. Mr. Holloway was cunning, orchestrating this twisted game with deft hands. There was more at stake here than Clara's safety. It was as if he were trying to unearth the very foundation upon which our lives rested, unearthing secrets buried deep within the silence of our family history. Clara isn't just a pawn to be moved, I insisted, the resolve surging through me. You don't know the power of what you're tampering with, perhaps, he replied, his tone softening momentarily. If only you knew the true nature of her affinity, you would think twice before issuing such grand proclamations. That I felt Nathan's hand grip my shoulder, an anchor amid the turmoil. His eyes implored me not to take the bait, but if there was a truth hidden beneath the layers of deceptions, I needed to know it, not just for Clara but for the unspoken bond of family that felt severed in that moment. But before I could respond, a voice broke through the haze of apprehension, startling me back into reality. The weight in the air shifted as Clara spoke, her words hesitant yet bold. Mr. Holloway, if there's something between our families, you owe it to me to tell me the truth. A ripple of surprise moved through the shadowy figures, and for a fleeting second, the atmosphere lightened, like the break of dawn through storm clouds. You wish to uncover the truth? Mr. Holloway regarded Clara with newfound interest, almost with a hint of respect. Very well. But truth comes at a price, and trust me, it's not for the faint-hearted. I'll risk it, Clara replied resolutely, her bravery igniting a flicker of hope within me. Yet in that instant, as brave Clara stood confidently against a looming storm, we were bitten by the tendrils of reality once more. A phone vibrated violently against the steel surface of the counter, its ringtone interrupting our charged moment. Nathan's breath caught in his throat, fear mingling with urgency, as he quickly reached for it, but I couldn't help but wonder who was reaching out to us now. Nathan shouted, a pulse of panic pushing him to stop. But it was too late. The screen illuminated words that sent dread coursing through my veins. It's Dad. He knows something's happening. He's coming. A cold chill settled over the room, the air thickening with impending doom. The once flickering hope weighed heavier, swallowed by the rising tide of menace. Lila, we have to leave now, Nathan urged urgently, but despair crept in. Where could we hide when darkness lurked just beyond our door, ready to test our limits? As adrenaline surged through my veins, I turned to Clara, steeling myself against the impending decision. "We can't abandon you," I murmured, desperate for a way out that didn't leave her behind. With my heart pounding, I clung to the notion that maybe, just maybe, there was a way to confront the past without succumbing to it, but as the pounding footsteps approached, I realized the moment of choice was slipping through my fingers like grains of sand. When the door opened, unveiling a figure that changed everything, our fragile plan shattered, and I stood paralyzed as I recognized the face revealed me father. His expression was unreadable, a mask over the chaos that loomed behind him, but as his eyes found mine, a shatter of emotions passed between USA unanswered rifts spanning years steeped in shadows. And I understood, with dreadful clarity, he wasn't here merely to bring order, he was here to obliterate the thin line between our lives, unraveling the truth that threatened to consume us all. The air crackled with tension and unspoken truths as my father stepped into the room, his presence casting an overwhelming shadow over the fragile alliance we had formed. There he stood, tall and imposing, with eyes that seemed to simultaneously pierce through to my core and look past me, into memories I thought had faded. "Lila," he said, his voice low and gravelly, as if the weight of my name held untold histories. I felt the world tilt on its axis, and I clutched Nathan's arm for support, feeling the warmth of his skin reminding me I wasn't lost in this chaos alone. "Why are you here?" I asked, trying to summon courage amidst the storm swirling within me. A flicker of pain cut through his stern exterior. "Because I had to protect you. I didn't anticipate it would come to this." He waved a hand dismissively toward Mr. Holloway, who was leaning back against the wall, a sly smile playing on his lips as he absorbed my father's discomfort. "Protect us from what?" Clara's voice was steady, filled with a defiance that mirrored my own, and I felt a rush of appreciation for her bravery, a reminder that our bonds could still light a path through the darkness. "You've been hiding things, haven't you?" My father's footsteps echoed as he approached Clara. If he was here to protect anyone, it should have been her. "I've only ever wanted what was best for you, sweetheart," he said, not meeting her gaze directly, which only deepened the gulf of untrustworthiness that lay between us. Nathan stepped forward, his protective instincts roaring to life. "You think you can just walk in here and pick up the pieces of a life you've shattered? You think that just because you're our father, it gives you the right to dictate how this ends? You left us." An unbearable silence settled in the air, thickening like a dense fog, as the echo of unfulfilled promises hung heavily in the room. My father exhaled sharply, his facade briefly cracking. "I know I failed you, but the world you're about to be drawn into is one that will test all of us." "Talk!" Nathan shouted, his voice a mix of fury and desperation. "Tell us what's really going on here. What aren't you telling us?" The weight of expectation bore down on my father, and for a moment, I saw his resolve tremble. He looked at Clara, and a shadow of sorrow flickered across his face. "Your families were intertwined long before you were born. Decisions made in the past are the very chains that bind you today." At that moment, I felt a shift, a change in the energy in the room. The remnants of hope that had begun to sprout amidst the chaos were met by a creeping dread deeper than any fear I had known before. "What do you mean?" I breathed, clutching my chest as the full weight of his words began to penetrate my consciousness. "I can't reveal everything here," he said, and dread washed over me as I noticed how he avoided meeting my eyes directly. "But there are names tied to your family that carry immense burdens, dark secrets that can either save or destroy you. Tell me." I pleaded, desperation turning my voice raw. "Do what you need to do, but don't leave us hanging in this fog of uncertainty. My family are familiar, not what you believe it to be. And your choices will lead you down a path that cannot be turned back from." Just as he spoke, the room reverberated with the sound of footsteps rushing toward the door, menacing and authoritative. Time slowed, and my heart raced in sync with the dread pooling in my stomach. "We need to leave," Nathan urged, his voice barely above a whisper as the reality of our circumstances began to settle in, but Clara stayed rooted, her gaze locked onto my father's for answers that lay buried under too many layers of silence. "What do we do?" she pressed, the panic creeping into her voice. As the door burst open, revealing a figure silhouetted against the harsh light of the hallway, I braced myself, recognizing the grim determination on their face. Nathan, beside me, tensed, ready to defend against whatever storm awaited us. "Lila, step away," my father instructed suddenly, urgency threading through his voice. Before I could process what was unfolding, he stepped in front of us, shielding us as the figure strode in with authority, eyes gleaming with intent. "Mr. Holloway," the newcomer acknowledged sharply, "we need to talk." In that instant, I felt everything shatter. The fragile wall I had built against despair crumbled, leaving me exposed. I glanced at Clara, then at Nathan, but my father's unwavering gaze was fixed ahead, his body taut with impending confrontation. "Everything is unraveling," he said, his voice a tight whisper, "and if we don't choose our next steps carefully, we could lose everything. You won't have the chance to turn back." As the stranger took yet another step forward, the weight of the moment settled hard against my chest. The path before us had never felt more uncertain, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were standing on the precipice of a revelation that would change everything. As the door swung shut behind the newcomer, sealing off any possibility of retreat, I braced myself for whatever lay ahead, knowing fiercely that our only chance at survival rested in confronting the truth, whatever it may hold. And with a heart racing with dread and a flicker of hope, I could hardly breathe as the stakes grew even higher, and I wondered, not for the first time, if the cost would be too great to bear. The atmosphere thickened in the stark room, a blend of urgency and despair wrapping around us like an unyielding shroud. The newcomer's expression was inscrutable, eyes cold yet brimming with an intensity that seemed to encompass lifetimes of hidden agendas. My heart pounded as I grappled with the reality of our predicament. This was no longer just a family matter, it was a battle for our lives, steeped in secrets that spiraled deeper than I could have ever imagined. "Let's get this over with," the stranger commanded, directing a piercing gaze toward my father that made the air feel like it had been sucked out of the room. "You know why I'm here." My father clenched his jaw, and the silence that followed felt like a chasm filled with dread. "You can't force them into this," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "They don't know what they're getting involved in, exactly." "It's because they don't know that we need to act quickly," the newcomer retorted, his voice sharp enough to cut through the tension. "The longer we wait, the more dangerous it becomes for everyone." "Who are you?" Clara's voice wavered, but it was laced with courage. She had always been the one to ask the questions that dug beneath the surface. "What do you mean by dangerous? Are we in some kind of immediate threat?" The stranger regarded her with a mix of admiration and disdain. "You're smarter than you look. Unfortunately, being smart won't keep you safe from what's coming. Your family's decisions have set off a domino effect that you can neither ignore nor reverse." "Stop speaking in riddles," Nathan snapped, his protective instincts flaring. "Just tell us what's happening. If we're in danger, we want to know why. We deserve to know." "The alternative is a fate far worse than ignorance," the newcomer replied curtly, a shadow flickering across his features. "The Holloways have been playing a dangerous game, and your father here," he gestured at my father, "was an unwitting pawn. But all the pieces are in motion now, and you're about to find yourselves in the center of this." "You don't have a choice." "You said we could lose everything," I interjected, awareness dawning in me like a cold, unwelcome wave. "What exactly does that mean? Is this about our parents? Is it about our families being intertwined?" The stranger's eyes narrowed, a moment of hesitation passing over him before he spoke again, his voice dropping. "Your families are bound in ways you cannot yet comprehend. Trust, betrayal, ancient ties, all wrapped up in a legacy that's about to resurface with deadly consequences. And until you understand the depth of your heritage, you won't stand a chance against what's coming." My breath caught in my throat, fear entwined with curiosity as fragments of familial history flickered back to me. Stories my mother used to weave about our lineage swirled like ghosts in my mind. Were they more than just tales meant to connect us to our roots? Suddenly, the air changed, tangible and electric, as my father broke through the tension. "I'll do what's necessary to protect my children. Do you understand?" His voice held an iron resolve. "Whatever you think is exciting about all of this, we're not playing your game or anyone else's." "Then you're already at a loss," the newcomer shot back, his voice laced with irritation. "Your ignorance has put you at the center of a family feud that could take you down in the blink of an eye. Know this, the risks are far greater than you realize. The lives you hold dear are all in jeopardy." Just as he spoke, I felt something shift deep within me. The reality of our situation began to solidify. It wasn't just my father and us against the dark unknown, it was a familial battle that had been brewing long before we were ever born. What do we need to do? I asked, my voice steadying despite the swirling uncertainty. If we're being dragged into this darkness, we have to know how to fight back. The newcomer regarded me with an unexpected spark of respect. You're wiser than I thought, he said slowly. But here's the thing, it's not just about fighting. It's about understanding the truth and uncovering the past. You'll need to seek out your mother's connection to the Holloway Sit holds the key to everything. What about my mother? The mention of my mother sent a shiver down my spine, memories flooding back, the warmth of her smile, the laughter we shared before life had turned brutal. She knows more than she's ever told you. All I can say is, be prepared for an awakening. There will be those who will not want this news to reach you, he warned, his eyes darkening. You must tread carefully. Allies will soon turn to foes once the truth unravels. Trust no one. As a profound silence descended over us, I felt the weight of his words pressing down, ushering in a sense of helplessness. How could we navigate a path so fraught with treachery and betrayal, a web so intricately woven around our fates that unraveling it seemed utterly impossible? In that moment, the door crashed open again, displacing my thoughts. The remnants of the stranger's warning resonated through me as I turned, holding my breath. But when I caught sight of who had entered, the ground beneath my feet felt as though it were made of glass. It wouldn't take much for it to shatter. There, standing in the threshold, was a figure from my past, one I had believed was long gone, my mother. Her eyes met mine, filled with a ferocity that had been absent for far too long, a blend of sorrow and strength in her expression. And as she stepped forward, the room seemed to tighten around us, every heartbeat pulsing with new possibility and unanswered questions. Lila, she said, voice quaking yet fierce, we need to talk about the truth. And just like that, I knew that the illusion of safety had been ripped away. The confrontation with reality loomed larger than ever, and the path we were about to take would be fraught with revelations that could either bind us closer together or tear us apart forever. The glow of the overhead light flickered, momentarily casting shadows across my mother's worn face. A rush of memories flooded my mind, intertwining with the shock of her sudden reappearance. The last time I had seen her, we were displaced by the turmoil she couldn't shield me from. Now, here she stood, exuding the strength of a lioness but carrying the weight of a lifetime filled with sacrifice and secrets. Mom, I breathed, a mix of longing and resentment swirling within me. You've been missing. We thought. I know what you thought, she cut in sharply, the fire in her tone igniting the space between us. And I'm so sorry for the pain my absence caused. I had to protect you. Her gaze swept across the room, landing on the stranger whose presence had turned our family into a powder keg. But it seems my efforts have been in vain. Clara shifted closer to Nathan, her wide eyes searching his for reassurance. I, however, stood rooted in place, raw emotions twisting in my gut. Her return, though I had yearned for it, felt like a double-edged sword. Protect us from what? I demanded, my voice catching on the fervor of my question. What were you involved in that forced you to leave us? Or the truth we're supposed to uncover? There's a legacy that you cannot afford to ignore, Lila, she replied, her voice trembling in a way that revealed all the unspoken fears pent up inside her. Your father's past, our family's decisions, it's all tied to something I thought I could escape. I felt Nathan's hand clasp mine, his warmth grounding me as I absorbed the weight of her words. What do you mean escape? 15 years ago, I was faced with a choice, reveal our history or lose everything I loved, she said, her resolve flickering as memories from a distant time swarmed in her eyes. I chose to disappear. I've carried that burden, not just for me but for you, for seconds of normalcy I could grant you. Normalcy? I echoed, bitterness creeping into my voice. Mom, we've been anything but normal. Don't you understand? You abandoning us left scars, not safety. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. I know, and for that I am truly sorry. But now we're out of time. The very decisions I made have consequences that are spiraling out of control, and you're caught in the middle. If I hadn't left, maybe it would be different. But what's done cannot be undone. A silence fell upon us like a heavy blanket, the weight of her admission thickening the air. The stranger harbinger of chaos was now an unwelcome witness to our family's unraveling, lurking in the corners, waiting to exploit our emotional fragility. Can we trust you? Nathan asked bluntly, his brow furrowed. You left us when we needed you most. What's changed? Something flickered in her expression, a glimmer of hope or perhaps a flicker of determination only visible to me. I've spent every day since searching for a way back. I came here because I've learned things, consequential truths about our family and about you all. I know now that staying away was a coward's choice. You deserve to know everything, even if the truth can be painful. That I faced her, desperate for absolution but also wary of the revelations that lay ahead. What do you know? As she opened her mouth to speak, a sound interrupted us, a low rumble that echoed through the walls, sending a tremor through the floor beneath my feet. The stranger's expression shifted. He turned sharply, every muscle in his body tensed as if bracing for impact. There's no time, he growled, eyes darkening. They found us. What does that mean? Clara's voice lifted an octave, panic coloring her features. Mom, what's happening? I turned to my mother, seeking answers in a time when my world felt utterly chaotic. She looked torn between the fight brewing around us and the revelations that hung suspended in the air like unfallen rain. Lila, I need you to trust me, she urged, her intensity piercing the storm gathering outside the room. There are forces at play, unseen enemies who want to keep our history buried. We're not just dealing with family feuds, we're part of something much larger. Larger than what? I repeated. Desperation clawing at my throat. They'll come for you, she added, her voice dipping to a whisper. And they'll come for the truth. The power in her words resonated, stirring something deep within me. Yet, the ever-persistent dread seeped back. Would we ever be free of this insidious fear? Was there a path ahead, or were we drastically overestimating our choices? At that moment, a loud crash reverberated from the hallway, sharp and insistent, chilling my heart. The stranger stepped forward, his body bracing, instinctively guarding us as the door swung open wide, revealing silhouettes cloaked in uncertainty and menace. Get behind me, he shouted, thrusting himself protectively in front of us as commotion erupted. In that single instant, the unresolved tension in the room reached its peak, and I felt everything spiral into a terrifying abyss. My mother's features hardened, and in her eyes, I glimpsed the fierce resolve I had forgotten even existed. Prepare yourself, Lila, she declared, a vow forged in the midst of chaos. You need to remember who you are and what we must stand for together. But as the shadowy figures surged into view, one made their intention clear, and my heart plummeted. A face I was all too familiar with and not ready to confront had emerged from the darkness, shattering whatever fleeting sense of security I had managed to hold on to. Hello, Lila, the voice slithered through the air, dripping with cold familiarity. I've come for what you owe me. I stood frozen, the ominous familiarity of that voice pulling me back to a time when the ground beneath my feet had felt more solid. Nathan, I gasped, his presence grounding me as shock rippled through the room. Clara's hand tightened around mine, the warmth of her small fingers a stark contrast to the icy dread creeping into my spine. Who are you? Nathan's voice was low and steady, but I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way he instinctively shifted closer to Clara. The figure stepped into the light, and my heart sank. David, my father's brother, the black sheep of our family. The last sight I had of him was aged and worn, his face emblazoned with the regrets of poor choices. Now, though, he loomed in front of us with an air of authority that made me tremble. He looked more formidable, more dangerous than I remember. A poignant reminder of how quickly things could turn. Family always comes home eventually, David said, a predatory smile stretching across his lips, revealing teeth that gleamed with a malevolence I hadn't anticipated. Go. My mother urged us, a fire igniting in her eyes. We can't face him in this moment of vulnerability. It's not just him, you need to understand that they're watching, they? Clara's voice quivered, casting worried glances between our mother and the intruder. David laughed lightly, yet it sounded like steel sliding against stone. Oh, sweet Clara, you have no idea what you're entangled in. It's all deeper than you can comprehend. His gaze narrowed, settling back on me. And Lila, oh, you should have never dug your heels in. This is no ordinary fight. It's about legacy, family, and the truth you've been trying to bury since she left. Stop. I spoke louder than I intended, desperation clawing at my throat. What do you want from us? I want what's rightfully mine. His voice dripped with malevolence as he sidled closer, the shadows inviting him further into the light of our confrontation. You're holding on to secrets that belong to me, and I can't let you continue with the charade. You don't know anything. My voice wavered, but I thrust my chin up defiantly. The truth is ours to uncover. We're not afraid of you. A flicker of amusement danced in his eyes. Ah, what a brave little girl. But bravery has its price, doesn't it? He turned to my mother, who stood her ground, seemingly unwavering yet exuding a desperation that tugged at my heart. You should have stayed away, dear sister. It might have saved your lovely little family. The fear that twisted inside me coiled tighter. My mother turned to me, urgency blazing in her eyes as she whispered, Lila, it's vital you listen. He doesn't just represent our family's path, he embodies the choices that led to the darkness surrounding us now. Don't listen to her. David spat, his voice echoing like thunder in the room. She's fed you lies dressed as truths. This family is not what you think it is. You've been coddled for too long, Lila. The truth is ugly, and it will devour you whole. Tears brimmed in Clara's eyes, and Nathan wrapped an arm protectively around her. I reached for them both, drawing strength from their presence, but a sick apprehension lodged in my throat, hampering my ability to think clearly. Tell me what you know, I said, my voice trembling but resolute, echoing my mother's earlier courage. If you have some revelation pertaining to our family, then speak it. David smirked, the predatory glint deepening his features. You're stronger than I thought, Lila, he said, leaning toward me as if sharing a secret. But strength alone will not shield you from the truth. In time, you'll learn that love is just a thin veil over a tangled web of lies. Your mother's secrets are only the beginning. The shadows seemed to stretch and pulsate around him as if the very air had thickened with secrets too heavy to bear. I will be back, he declared, backing away slowly, his laughter cascading painfully through the air. And when you unravel the truth, don't say I didn't warn you. And then he was gone, the door swinging shut with a finality that echoed deep within my heart. All at once, the tension evaporated, leaving a vacuum of uncertainty and dread. My mother collapsed into a chair, her hands shaking as she pressed her forehead into her palms. Nathan moved towards her, concern flooding his face. What did he mean? What truth? I don't. She choked on her words, an emotional storm crashing around her as she struggled to keep herself grounded. I thought we would have time. I never wanted you to find out this way, Mom, I whispered. You have to tell me. We can't keep running away from this. She lifted her head, tears sparkling like shards of glass in her eyes. Soon, I promise. But not now. You need to understand there's more at stake than just our family. I'm terrified for you, Lila. The revelations are much darker than you imagine. But before I could reassure her, another sound broke through, a gentle knock this time, hesitant but firm. The door creaked open, and there stood a figure I didn't anticipate. Hello, Lila, they whispered, voice barely above a breath. I have something important to tell you. It's about David, and your father's legacy, and how our lives intertwine in ways you never knew. In that moment, the ground felt like quicksand beneath me, the weight of uncertainty crushing. What more could I possibly learn? And how much could we withstand before it all fell apart? As the last few words hung heavily in the air, my heart lurched and time froze, the walls around us defying their ornamental elegance and becoming a cage that threatened to ricochet our fragile truths into oblivion. The newcomer, trembling yet resolute, stepped forward, revealing an all too familiar face framed by the glow of dim light. A face I hadn't seen in what felt like an eternity. Cousin, the figure spoke with tenderness, drawing out the familiar bond that once felt like an anchor in the turbulent sea of my life. Isabel, David's daughter, had arrived as if she were a breath of fresh air amid a gathering gale. Her presence, however unexpectedly welcomed, sent a jolt of confusion through me, igniting old memories mixed with the knot of today's betrayals. I have to tell you everything. Why now? Nathan's voice shattered the silence, skepticism raising its brow. What do you know that we don't? Why should we trust the word of those who stand behind David? Because I'm not like him, Isabel replied, her voice steady as her gaze flickered between each of us, seeking comprehension. I came here to warn you, Lila. Just as you've faced the weight of your family's decisions, I've had to wrestle with our own legacy. The consequences of choices made by those before us linger, and the darkness is rising again. her words unfolded 1,000 questions tucked away in the corners of my consciousness, fighting against the fear clawing at my heart. What darkness? I pressed, seeking clarity amid the storm brewing around us. David just threatened us. What does he want? David aims to reclaim the power our families held long ago. Isabel, my gaze was steady as she continued, but it comes with sacrifices, dark sacrifices that would put you all at risk, especially you, Lila. You must realize that your father's legacy is not just about wealth and influence, it's about bloodlines intertwined with burdens of regret. My pulse quickened, the pieces of the puzzle starting to take shape. But we can change this. We can reveal the truth, and it'll set us free from their hold. Maybe, Isabel sighed, looking away for a moment as if the weight of the world rested on her shoulders. But the truth is never easy, sometimes it brings more pain than solace. And others will do anything to stop us. Isabel, my mother interjected softly from her chair, her face pale as she observed the gathering of emotions that swirled between us. What is it you know? If there's a chance to confront the past, we can't remain silent. Isabel glanced toward Nathan and Clara, her fierce determination faltering for a heartbeat. Your mother, me, Aunt Rachel, she tried to protect us from the ghosts of the past, but it has always been tied to the Holloway family. I have knowledge of a hidden document, a ledger that details dealings, betrayals that were carried out decades ago. But what I know could also open doors to secrets that would break current alliances and ignite wrath far beyond our control. Secrets? Clara's voice was barely a whisper, both intrigued and horrified at the prospect. What kind of secrets? Your lives are woven with the stories of love and vengeance, betrayal and loyalty. If you choose to uncover these truths, you'll grasp not only the chains binding your families together but also the lives your ancestors sacrificed. David is only a puppet in this game, and there are darker forces that mean to keep us all under control. The air crackled again, tension heavy in the room as we absorbed these insights. My heart beat in rhythm with the chaos storming through my thoughts. What do we do? I demanded, my resolve building amidst the uncertainty. How can we protect ourselves? Prepare yourselves, Isabel replied, her voice resolute, transforming uncertainty into determination. We need to gather the evidence, present it to those not entangled in these bindings. There are allies, those who seek change, and truth-forging alliances with them will fortify our stance against David and his twisted ambitions. But we need to act swiftly, as time only works against us, and just as the determination sparked in my heart, a rumble resonated from the hallway, the warning of mounting chaos swirling like dark clouds gathering for a storm. They're coming back, my mother warned, a sense of urgency yanking us back into the moment's peril. We don't have much time. Isabel stood tall, determination blending with fear as she glanced between us. Whatever happens next, Lila, trust your instincts. The bonds forged in love are stronger than the ones made in darkness. Whatever truth is out there, face it together. Only then can you find your way back into the light. She extended her hands toward us, and amid the flickering shadows and uncertainty, I felt the warmth of her grip becoming a lifeline, a channel through which resilience coursed. Nathan took one, Clara another, and I wrapped my fingers around Isabel's, pulling in the strength we all shared, when the door swung upon with a deafening creak, revealing a series of unfathomable faces poised to strike. I knew in that moment we were no longer just victims of our histories, nor were we simply bound by secrets of old. We were an assembly of hope willing to fight for truth, standing against the currents of fate that sought to control us. Together, I declared, locking eyes with each of them, we faced this as one. And as uncertainty loomed, hope ignited. In each heartbeat, we shared a collective pulse of resilience. We were battered yet unbowed, ready to confront whatever lay ahead, together, because in facing the shadows, perhaps we would finally uncover the bright truths waiting to be discovered in the light. The walls began to close in, but with our hands intertwined, I felt our connection solidify, a promise that the darkness wouldn't claim us, that we'd rise stronger through each trial. Maybe the truths we sought wouldn't just pave the way for closure but could also birth our liberation, and as I stepped toward the threshold, heart racing with the chaos awaiting us, I took a deep breath, whispering to the universe as we crossed the threshold together, we are not defined by our past, we're emerging as our true selves, unshackled and free.